Welcome back to Football Coach, episode number 28. We're into the National Championship week. I've had still no additional commitments. We have just 2 this season, and it's a flippin' nightmare. I have, through really deep scouting, found some more guys with really high potential that have the okay current ability. Not the awful current ability, but, at least something that we can go, hey, they're only a point or two behind these other guys with significantly more potential. We'll take our chances on that one. But durability also a factor in my search, in my hunt these days. And there's a lot of guys that I'm not ready to give offers to. So the transfer market's going to be hugely important this season. And it's not been a place there where we've landed too many good ones in the past. Just a few, usually, per season. So this could be the worst class we've ever had. Which is weird to have that happen at this stage. Playoff results. So Iowa beats Michigan in double overtime. Georgia shuts out Ohio State after being number 1 in the country until their SEC championship game, their first and only loss. USC overtime victory over Tennessee, and Oklahoma beating TCU. Then in the quarterfinals, it's Clemson holding off Iowa comfortably. Georgia with the upset over Cincinnati. Stanford beating USC. So a Pac-12 head-to-head matchup there with Stanford coming out on top. And Oklahoma with the upset over LSU, meaning 2 out of the 4 teams with byes get eliminated in that first round. Taking us into the semifinals, a 1-5 matchup at Clemson, the new number 1. Georgia beats them by a point, 27-26. Very close game, and that's Georgia into the national championship to take on the other upset, which is Oklahoma, the 10 seed and number 10th ranked team in the country with a few losses, is going to find themselves playing against Georgia. So none of the teams with byes have made it to the championship game, and you would think based on form and record, Georgia should be big-time favorites. No surprise at all, Georgia has gone on to win that national championship. So we meet expectations by winning 2 games simply because the coaches have been here a long time. They incur a penalty for the long tenure. The desire to just simply shake things up has seen a -5 in the opinion. And that has dropped us to a -1. Where they now want us to fire the coaching staff. I think it's time, folks. We've been talking about it for a while. We come out with a super talented team this year that managed to win 2 games. And then there's Hawaii. Hawaii, we were significantly stronger then. And they absolutely kicked us in the rear end. And got themselves into a bowl game that they won. Hawaii. They are average this year compared to our better years. Like, not counting this year where we're significantly better than them, but all the other better years in the 8 years we've played, the 3 or so years where we've been around a 78, 77. It's Hawaii this year. They made and won a bowl game. We've never won more than 2 games in a season. I agree with the athletic director, this experiment to develop young coaches from scratch, as much as I'm like, okay, well, hey, let's start farming some wins. Let's get those FCS opponents in and make sure we get 3-4 victories every year. No. Final ranking, though, 69th. 69th. That is above that 70 threshold. We will see some sort of gain in prestige. There has been no change to the fan base, so they're at least okay with the double loss, and we're not far away from getting back to the A+. But we've spent so long farming some coach integrity for our head coach. But I think we could do better. I really think we could do better. Moments ago, I was so sure of myself, and now I'm suddenly so unsure of myself. I will look. I will look. If my memory serves me correctly, there's 1 year left on the deal for all 3 guys. Now, here's why I'm uncertain. 2 of them have leveled up. We got a couple wins this year, and they're still in the under 40 category one last time, at least the first of them. So we get the 1,000 XP bonus. We gain for the wins we did pickup and meeting expectations. And so for Thomas Dye, it's a massive jump between level 14 to level 15. He's already halfway to the next level and has picked up a 1 in training and the Great Wall trait, which is +2 pass blocking for offensive linemen. Our offensive coordinator already has bulldozers, which is the run blocking bonus. We added for him as he leveled up as well, protect the rock +10 ball security, and we added 1 in recruiting for him, and he's already halfway through a level, and our defensive coordinator is just 44 experience points away from leveling up. He still has 2 years before he hits 40. We still have 1 more year for Alec Dowell before he hits 40. This was the last year for that bonus for Thomas Dye, though. So I think realistically, he is the one most in jeopardy. But we did see progress. I think once I get these guys to 5-5, if I do stick with them long term, we will then turn to at least adding a point in offense, a point or 2 in defense. We already have the 5-5 there, so Wilkerson should see defense get a point next season. So right now, it is the end of the 2032 season. The team lock has just ended. We could fire these guys, but they still have 2 years left, so that would be spending extra money to fire them. I think I might stick it out for another year. But the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, I can assure their safety for the moment. But what about the head coach? We have a spread with a run first. And we run the spread. And we run the run first because we have both of them, right? It's a 2-point bonus to the coaching. So looking for a coach who has a 3-4 for the defense, a spread for the offense, and virtually anything else we can get away from the run first that we've been stuck with. Though, of course, we did just recruit our first time massive running back recruit. This was the year I almost did it. The whole experiment that we're trying to run here is to create the ultimate challenge and build this program from scratch, including coaches. The temptation to move away is great. Lincoln Decker is currently the defensive coordinator at South Carolina. Spread, pass first, 3-4. He's got 3 of the 4 styles that we want or need. He's been a head coach before for Iowa recently. This last year he was with South Carolina for the first time. He's definitely jumped ship a little bit. He was with UCF as a defensive coordinator, UCLA, before getting that first head coaching job. And the guy is pretty talented. He's got 5 badges even. No, 4 badges. But he's got a 9 in recruiting, which I'm just really tempted by. Plus, with a 5 in defense, he's actually better than the defensive coordinator we have. So while he would contribute absolutely nothing offensively besides a +2 bonus for... no, it would only be a +1 bonus. It would be a +1 bonus. So we'd lose a point in offense, but we would gain a point in defense. But recruiting would be a massive, massive gain for us, but especially the additions is an extra defensive coordinator training during preseason. So that's 4 extra sessions that we would pick up. But I love this one. Pass rusher recruiter. Recruiting pitches to players with pass rusher archetype yield 100 extra points. 100 extra points week after week. Now, pass rusher archetype is not going to be coming up that often with that many guys. But if we could search and find your pass rushers, he could pitch them week after week after week with a 100-point bonus. Like, that is crazy good. And we'd start being able to out-recruit some teams for pass rusher. It's so tempting. It's so tempting. Now, regardless of what the athletic director thinks, it would be actually pretty easy to just make a move whenever we want to make a move. There's still 2 years left on their deal. Let's give him a chance to come out of this. For one thing, he did meet expectations this season. I'm going to push this experiment a little bit further, retaining the coaches. We are making progress. It's been there. So jumping ship now and doing something easier, no. We have changed one thing to make it easier, and that is pushing our schedule into the ability to start farming wins just a little bit. And well, it was really no surprise at all that Josue Pryor would turn around and want to leave this next year. Of course, if we can retain him, I'll be happy to. But at the moment, I have $1 million in NIL money that is tied up into a quarterback recruit who we're probably not even going to sign. But the offer has been there since very, very early on when he was close to committing. But it's been between us and Hawaii for ages, and we have been inching our way into that battle without really drawing very close, as Hawaii would come with some big pitch that we couldn't match to pull back ahead, as we would draw closer, and then they'd pull back away, and then draw closer, and they'd pull back away, because our best pitches just aren't good enough compared to theirs. And that $1 million in NIL money, at the moment anyway, is locked up. So Jose Pryor, I've only got $2 million. It's going to be hard to try to hang on to him. His draft standing has gone up a lot in this extra year played. He's now a 3rd round pick. Oh yes, okay. Hey, look at that. You know what? Actually, he was not on the all-conference team last year. We are risking our head coach anyway. As things going, screw it. We are putting 10 coach integrity on the line. He was all conference year before last. This last year he was not all conference, but he's going to be like a 95. He was the 2nd, 3rd highest rated lineman in the entire conference. We are going to have more wins next year than we had this year. I'm pretty confident. I'm going to put this 10 coach integrity on the line to hang on to him and save the $2 million. There's putting your money where your mouth is, right? We've talked about moving on from the coach, and I'm like, this close. Well, now it's on the line, right? So we've convinced Pryor to stay for his senior year. Awesome. Career-wise, 63 pancakes, 12 sacks. But this last year, I'm wondering what he did. He did allow a sack this year, where he didn't the year prior. And this year, prior, no pun intended, but pun came out. Anyway, 19 pancakes was a few more than the year prior. He had 15 or 16. Here we go again. He should be in for a huge year, though, for us. We are losing Shane Davis, who was all conference. Just 2nd player to ever achieve that for our team. Pryor being the one the year prior. Jeez. Oof. Now that's rough. Shane Davis, 1 carry for 1 yard and a fumble. Was that actually on one of these 151 receptions and not on the carry? Shane Davis leaving us is a big miss, but as we've noted, right, there's such a wonderful revolving door at the wide receiver position now. But Hunter Drake is also pretty good. They each had 151 catches. Davis more as your downfield guy. Drake as more of your route runner. Hey, draft mocks 5th round for Shane Davis. So it looks like we might still have somebody in this draft anyway. There's definitely some quality, right? 9 graduates with an 80 plus. But we've noted that there was definitely something behind 17. It's this recruiting class. This recruiting class is absolutely killing me. Yeah, quick look at what is left. 48% are juniors right now, though, for starters. Sophomores and freshmen. Chapel set to continue on, heading into senior year. Looking pretty good at running back, and of course Norman's a massive addition who's well ahead of the entire class ahead of him, and already ahead of even one of the sophomores. Won't take him long to be in the top 3, and we should be able to redshirt him this year, though. So from redshirt freshman year on, it looks like he'll be one of the top 3 guys and get 4 years as a regular player. And yeah, wide receiver, taking a little bit of a hit. A lot of big-time graduates, but we've got 2 guys that are already 80 plus that are coming in, and we should be able to get maybe a third 80. Tight ends, of course, going to be good with Schneider And offensive line's looking fairly good. Number of guys that should be about 80 plus. We are going to take a little bit of a hit, though. We really are. Offense will not be quite as good next year, in theory. D-line, though, is going to get bigger, better, stronger. So the linebackers will be pretty good. Cornerback taking a little bit of a hit. That big group that we had to suffer through their growth, they are all graduating now. But there's a much stronger group behind, and so it's not back to the drawing board in low 70s. We'll still be in the 80s, as we will at safety. The crazy part, though, right now is literally just 2 commits. Even with a huge group of 80 plus players that are graduating, we still have 6 plus that are already 80. We have a wide number of guys that are already 78s and above. So yeah, we will have plenty of 80 plus players next year. We do have 4 players that want to transfer out, though, so I've got some work to do to decide what to do. But it's very unlikely that I will be making cuts at this stage, because it is, we've got 19 spots open as it is. Well, the quarterback carousel will continue as our redshirt sophomore, Martin Dempsey, wants playing time as he heads into his junior year. He wants to start. He is good. He certainly has the potential, and he'll get better. We still have a now senior quarterback, and I can't give him 75% of the snaps next year. It's amazing that getting a better recruit, just how much of a difference it makes. Gabriel Norman already comes in number 4 on the depth chart at this moment. Schneider wants to win at least 3 games. This one, though, the coach integrity actually is not as important. It's only 6 on the line. We're going to go ahead and risk it for 3 wins, which we've never done here in year number 9. But I'm now in the business, now that our coaches are hitting 40 for the age. I'm now in the business that we need to start farming wins and prestige and see where that takes us. It'd be really nice to know right now, having finished in the top 70, just how much prestige we are gaining. I won't find out for a little bit, so we got to make our promises first, but we did achieve that goal. It will start to climb. Here's an easy promise to keep. Peyton Bailey was the one that I messed up the red shirt on this year. We went ahead and redshirted him, so he only played 4 games. So as a true sophomore, he'll be a redshirt sophomore year. He's right there, tied for number 1 at the top of the depth chart, so he will easily get 40% of snaps, if he can stay healthy, that is. And for Watts, is the same thing. He only played 6 games this year, 20% of snaps, but with a couple graduates at the safety position, he shoots right up to 2nd on the depth chart, so convincing him to stay is quite easy. That's a lot of promises for the coming year, but that is value that we're going to have. We are letting the 1 quarterback go, though, so that is 69 of 85 scholarships. We have 16 spots available. We just need to find the guys to fill those spots for this recruiting class. So Shane Davis did make it round 5, pick 13 of the 7th round draft, so good on him. 90 overall. I mean, he should, especially with that kind of potential. The length of time and what he was able to do for us, and having made all conference, sadly only once for him, but we'll get there eventually. Not the biggest transfer list I've seen, but definitely not the shortest. Last year's was really short, 400 something this year. 540 players entering the transfer portal. I think with so many vacancies, we've got the opportunity to offer playtime to more of them, but it's, can we win those pitches? And in the record books, Eric Ham had 8 rushing touchdowns this year. Shane Davis, that's career, by the way. That's normal for a 1-year thing. Anyway, Shane Davis set a number of career records: 2,300 receiving yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 return touchdown, which we've had more than 1, but we've never exceeded it yet. Return yards, 2,000, almost the same as the receiving yards that he had. Tackles, Boykin, still around. He was already the record setter, now 189 tackles for him. Defensive touchdowns, Sean Mack. We still haven't had more than 1 of those per individual. Single season records, Chappell, 2,600 yards. Nicely done. Passing touchdowns, 13. Passing yards per attempt is still pretty weak at just over 7, but the efficiency rating even higher with a 120. Alcia, though, with 4 fumbles, not helping us much. Shane Davis had 1,000 yards receiving this year, 2,300 over a career, and that was 4 years, right? Yeah. Took him a while to get going, but 7 receiving touchdowns in 1 year. That's more like it. Return touchdowns, 1, and 800 return yards this year. Individual game records. Chapel, 380 in the win over Arizona State. 47 pass attempts against Hawaii in that pitiful loss. Passing touchdowns, 5 against Arizona State, but interceptions, 3 against Colorado. Mixed bag, right? Passing yards per attempt in one game was 12.6. Average over the season was the 7. Alcea had 2 of his 4 fumbles in a single game, and that was in that loss to Colorado where we turned the ball over a lot. 3 interceptions and 2 fumbles by Alcea. That was 5 turnovers in one game. Receiving touchdowns, though, Shane Davis had 3 of them in that Arizona State victory. As for team records, points per game, just a hair shy of 17 points per game this year. 300 yards, 200 passing yards, 12 40-plus yard plays over the season, 1 per game on average. Offensive talent of 81, a record. That was straight cross-board 81. And we had, on the other side of the ball, 35.5 opposition points per game, 486 yards per game, best we've ever been. Gosh, our target has normally been 485 for a bonus from the boosters. That's a yard shy of that. I don't know if that was one of our targets this year. I don't remember what our targets were, but defensive talent at 80.6. I have never spent so long doing 3 weeks, and in this case, the off season. I've spent at least 6 hours, maybe 8 hours, going through very, very carefully looking at some things, and we'll see if it pays off here as we enter signing day. If it does, and I have actually one thing left, I have some NIL money remaining to throw some more at somebody before we click forward. We'll see if it pays off. For one thing, right, we only have our 2 commits so far, so there was a huge vacuum of, oh my goodness, we really need to sign some guys. We have 16 scholarships remaining, and we have exactly 16 on our priority list, possibly. So we could end up coming up short if any of the positions do not get to that level. Through very, very careful consideration, looking extremely closely at every single possibility, well, I tried something that I haven't done, and I looked at battles, right, where we were not part of it. We had Arkansas, we had TCU, we had Tulsa. We weren't on this guy's list, Sander Bowens. True freshman, 78 overall with A potential and A- durability. Phenomenal. Now, this one's not going to work out, right? We're 1,200 points behind. I'm not even pitching him this week. We're so far behind. Okay, but this is an example. Normally, the gap, right, because you're not even on the list, the gap is big. But there's a couple things that you can hone in on. The interest level, how well you could pitch them, and you can get an idea just how far behind you are by putting them on your list. Going in, still within the same week, not proceeding forward a week, but going in within that week and seeing what your positive would be like simply by adding them to the list, by pitching them that first time. You get a huge boost initially on where you start. Sometimes that boost that you get is insignificant compared to their short list of 3. The transfer list is a little shorter. If there's 3 guys and you're still way behind where they would be, then I just turn around and take them back off the list. But I found that there's some guys that weren't overly excited by their prospects, and yet we did have a high pitch value, and that initial first week pitch was actually pretty significant. So as we look at guy number 2, we have a legitimate shot at Cale Elliott. We might not get him, but it's a 4-star true freshman out of USC who is a 79 overall with A- potential. Durability is not great, but it's a freshman with a 79 for cornerback. That's straight into your lineup. And I found that scenario I was talking about. I found that our initial pitch would get us right in amongst these other guys. Now, these other guys in week number 2 were able to outpitch me, outwork me, but look, we are right in the thick of things. Now, TCU has already offered an NIL. I'm throwing in an NIL, my best pitch, because we ignored our number 1 guy that I'd rather have, just because 1,200 points is 1,200 points. We're not going to make up that ground. But we're able to get 667 directed at our number 2 target. That first tier guys who we never get unless nobody else offers. Our number 3 guy, we got in amongst it. We're not last on all these guys' lists like we normally are, but most of them are still too far beyond. Here's our one shot at an odd one, but it's a high school, and this is the first ever 1-star recruit. It's an A+ potential and A- durability, and he's only 2 points or 3 points behind what is normal that we get after. I found him pretty late into the season because I've never even scouted 1-star guys before, but I was struggling mightily the last 2 to 3 years, really, to find any wide receivers with quality and or potential. And I wasn't finding anything better than a B- or a C+ in the wide receiver department, and they were 64s and 65s. I got all the way down to a 1-star guy who we were at the 25% on because he already had interest in us. I threw him on the list for 1 week. I never once directly scouted him, but when we found that 30% and the A+ potential, it was like, oh my goodness. After that, 2 scouting sessions directly at him to get to the 60% so I could see what his durability was, and when it turned out that it was also an A-, it was like, oh my goodness, we have to take this guy. So we added him to the list at that point. I've never pitched him until this week. He just slowly made his way up the list because it was like, it's a 1-star guy. Like, nobody's going to offer him, right? I don't think anybody signs 1-star guys. I don't. This might be the first. But then there's a number of weaker 2-star guys, and I was not going to pitch this guy, but we had leftover pitches when all was said and done. Here's one that I've given up on. This was the quarterback that we pitched week in, week out. We talked about him either earlier this episode or last episode. It might have been this episode, that we were just chasing Hawaii and not able to close the gap. We were about 700 behind, and just we would inch closer, and then they'd have one big pitch week and pull away, and then we'd start inching closer again, and then they'd pull back away. So we weren't making up ground long term. So I finally gave up on him last week, I think it was. Like, this is the second week of not pitching him is all. Oh, we've got a quarterback right behind him that we are just now offering and pitching, and may jump to the lead unless Terrapins actually give him an offer, which they have not done so far. But we've got a nice gem here, and for a 59 overall, that's actually pretty good for D-line, for us anyway. For what we normally see, that's better than normal, with tremendous potential and very high durability. Here's one that we were pretty close on. I had gotten us up to number 2, and then Navy came in with an offer and jumped us. Virginia was number 1, and I will pitch just in case, but it's leftover pitch. Not going to happen. But we are getting a lot of the high school guys, and we did eventually find some A potential kind of guys in that area and better durability kind of guys. But here's another possible signing. It's a cornerback, redshirt freshman out of Washington, 75 overall already. And the sad thing is, it looks like we might be getting 2 big cornerback signings and not necessarily anything else. But hey, you take what you can get, right? There's going to be plenty of misses here. Like, I definitely tried something new, going after a group that I was like, okay, I think we can compete with these guys. And it turns out that a handful of them we absolutely could compete, and we might sign 3 or 4 big time coups for us transfer wise, and we'll still miss out on the others, but not as badly as I've seen in the past year. So I've definitely found a new strategy here. The hard thing is just how absurdly long it took me to really, really deep dive and figure it out and get after these guys. But if it gets us 3 or 4 additional signings that are taking us to a higher level, I'm going to be having to do that every year, because if it works out, it's a huge, huge victory for us. In the end, I'm going to use every last dollar in efforts to sign a few of these guys. First off, we have a D lineman who we were only 700 points behind, and we did pitch with a small NIL deal, which just goes above that 75% market threshold. We gained 612 points, which very much gets us in the mix, but it looks like it's going to leave us just a hair too far behind. But at least we're trying. And this is the big one. Hobbs, I think it's going to work out. We're now 1,000 points, and we were only 200 behind. We've got a tremendous shot of getting him signed for the redshirt freshman, 75 overall, our second cornerback option. 540K was what we needed to offer on that one. Now, the leftover is not 75% of market value, but all we had left was 340K, which we're sending to the true freshman wide receiver, who we already have a slight lead on and are now 832 points technically ahead, and hopefully they can't match that. Well, let's get to it, see what we get, and see how much. Even if we only get a few of those guys, I'll have to be doing this year after year after year and really, really just carefully find each and every possible signing. All right, well, Xander Bowens, we already knew that one was not happening. We are 3,000 points behind. That was not how far down we were. So that's a worry if it's going to be that far off. But here is the heavy competition, our first real shot at a signing. Cale Elliott, they say we have a 30% chance, and all 4 have a very, very clear shot. Well, hold on. Jonathan Combs is not working out. Apparently, we only have a 5% chance on this one. Yeah, 2,000 points behind Syracuse. Did I pitch him this week? I don't know if I did. All right, well, anyway, there's another 5% chance. Let's get that out of the way. 4,000 points behind. Yikes. Okay, well, moment of truth on the one first-tier 4-star freshman. Let's go. I had a legit shot. We put a lot of points into this final day on Cale Elliott, and we got him by 26 points. 26 points. Cale Elliott, massive signing, a 79 overall freshman with high potential, 4 stars. Oh my goodness. Okay, 900K was the NIL deal. All of them pitched a little bit more than that, but we made the 75% threshold, so we didn't get penalized. 667 points in the final week, 4,006 overall. It was our medium interest over their medium low for Colorado, who came in pretty hard to try to make up that gap. They scored 900 points in this final week to close in on us, but we did it. We did enough. Oh, okay. Well, that already locks it in, folks. I have to do this every year now. What a signing. Yes, we've had a big signing similar to this. Josue Pryor was somebody like this. We got him in the transfer market. It was not somebody we signed naturally. This is the way to go. The thing with Pryor was nobody else offered. That's how we got it. That was 3 other offers. All 3 of them came in, and we outdid them. Right? And these other guys, the only ones we beat were the ones that didn't offer. We lost handily to the others. But I have found a recipe that works. The wide receiver, he's ours. The tight end, he's ours. Nobody else offered. The offensive lineman, we got our first one there. Now, these guys are all a bit weak, but very high potential. All right, the quarterback, we knew this one was not happening. It's closer than I thought. No, that wasn't even the primary one, was it? He's further down the list. Hawaii's taken 2 quarterbacks away from me, are they not? It's a 63. That must be him. He's just moved up my list differently. But yeah, 676 points behind. It's closer than I thought it was, right? I had us pegged at 1,000 behind. I would have had 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks of pitches would have meant about 400 more points. We still would have been close to 300 behind. But we do get our quarterback. Maryland did not offer. We remain number 2 on the list. Actually, nobody else offered as well. So we got the plan B guy. Low durability, high potential, 1 point behind. We are going to get our first D lineman as well. We're doing fairly well so far. Okay, here was one of those battles that I really, really wanted but didn't think we were going to get in on. We were very much number 3 on his list. They're giving us a chance, though. Did I do a big extra pitch on him at the end? Ooh, I did. I did pitch at the end, and I did offer. Okay, that was Pearson. That was NIL deal 220. Sure. So we almost caught Navy. All right. Here's one that's not happening. Helton. We didn't bother with that. Too many teams offered in the end, but we are going to get this offensive lineman. And here we go. Here is the other moment of truth. These were the 2 other offers where we came in with NIL, and we've got first the redshirt freshman cornerback. He already scored the first one in Cale Elliott, but I opened it up to 3 cornerbacks for the class potentially, so we can sign him. This is including an NIL, and they give us the odds, but we don't get them. Houston gets them. 420 points, the difference. They scored 1,200 this week. We scored over 1,000. Now the difference on this too, was Houston already had an offer in. So how the NIL is one of the ways, and their NIL was much bigger than the offer we gave. And it looks like Rogers, we were a couple hundred points ahead of Florida, and Georgia did not even feature in, but it looks like Georgia did offer, but they make Florida the big favorites on this one, huh? We were ahead of them. We were ahead of them, and we offered the NIL. We didn't offer enough on the NIL. We end up 1,200 points behind. We lost 400 points this week because they offered an NIL that we could not match. Even if I had put all 3 NILs into this guy, we wouldn't have been able to match. But had I not offered at all, we would have had a slight positive. We would have been behind, right? We would have gained 300, so 700 the other direction. It wouldn't have been losing by 1,200. It would have been losing by 500. Lesson learned on trying to offer. But had they not offered the NIL, we would have had about 600 gained, meaning 1,000 points flipped. And had they not offered the NIL, they very much would not have gained 1,000. They would have gained a lot less than 1,000, and we might have been able to just beat them to it. They were going to gain ground on us. It's Florida. Disappointing missing out on that one. In fact, we missed out on all 3 of those guys that we went after. Means we do save some NIL money though. And this gets us into the lower end of the list where there's a lot more options and big misses here. 2,500 points behind, but we're going to sign all these guys. So we do get a second and a third cornerback. So we're going to end up getting both of those guys with the high durability. The true freshman, who's not great on the overall, but he's got better potential and fantastic durability. And then the high schooler, good additions. Strong cornerback class. Linebacker, definitely a little bit weaker, but we get our guy there. Looks like we're going to miss out on the first safety. We do by a wide margin, but we will get safety number 2 on the list. At least I think that was safety. Yeah, it had to have been safety number 2, otherwise it wouldn't have shown me safety number 3, right? Additional linebacker, we needed to sign 3 of them. That's our weakest position in this class. But we've got an additional D lineman here. We got our kicker. Okay, I did not expect that. We got our kicker. A little bit lower on the overall. It's a 1-star kind of guy, but at least it gives me a little depth at the position. Gets me somebody behind the 2 redshirt freshmen who will now be redshirt sophomores as he comes in as a true freshman and redshirts, and at least gives us something to offset where those two guys are at. And it looks like we're going to miss on an additional cornerback here, but I had already maxed out my signings anyway. We get the wide receiver at the end, which means the running back will not be signed. It means we actually did max out our positions otherwise, and no running back in the class, or besides the fantastic one. So overall, here is the final class we got. Cale Elliott, and we got the 69 overall A+ potential, Gabriel Norman. Fantastic additions, both of them. 1 4-star guy. We've got a number of 3-star guys, but only down to 6. We settled for a lot of 2 stars this year. Like I said, this was an incredibly difficult signing to make happen. The important part was we got 18 guys signed. We did make it happen. Lower star ratings, we really had to go lower to find the players, but we found them. This is not going to be a good recruiting class compared to everybody else. Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, Texas, and Oregon are the top 5, and we are 74th. I'm surprised we're not last. With 18 guys, I'm surprised we're not last. Just 3 5-stars, 9 2-stars, 2 1-stars, and just 2 transfers is all we ended up picking up, but they were both fantastic transfers that we added. All right, so finishing 69th in the rankings, added 67 points. It's not a very big haul. In fact, it barely brings us up above 0. We're going to have to keep on winning to get to that second level. It looks like I would estimate that that's about 1,000 points to cover from here to there. If this is 67, barely moving, right? 100 is probably a 10th. Might not be right, give or take a couple hundred on that, but I'd say it's about 1,000, and then it looks like it's about 2,500 to get to level 3 on the prestige side. We took a hit on the finances this year without the big 12 million coming in. However, we still get our conference TV deal, $7.5 million. We still get $4.5 million from each of our 2 bronze donors. They wanted us to beat Hawaii for $3 million. That would have been nice. Hawaii got $3 million instead for beating us. Not helpful. But we did add in $750,000 from our other donor by completing a donor request, a donor boost. We needed 9 takeaways. We got 16 this last year, but we had no new out-of-conference schedules this year. So that very much cut things down. We only brought in $17.25 million. Well, with a lower income year, after covering all of our expenses, we only have $1.5 million left. Now, one thing though is I did again continue my trend of paying forward my coaching staff, and we are a year ahead on salary. I could have vacated that and had a little bit more money to spend, $2.8 million to be exact. Our salary right now is 2.6, so I'm just overpaying that just a little bit each year and building up some reserves for that coaching staff. But NIL taking care of, stadium, academics, and facility maintenance costs covered, and we find ourselves with only 1.55. It's the facilities we've been working on to get these development bonuses and the facility recruiting capability. So it's the area we will continue on with, making a little bit further dent on next year. But we're not going to have minimal money every season. At least we were able to break even and have a little bit extra. But we've got to diversify, right? We cannot go all in facilities all the time, or I keep calling it facilities. I consider them all the facilities, but we cannot go through the entirety of those. You know, we have to continue leveling this up, but we really need to start bringing the prestige up so we can add extra boosters and not just farm, because our coaches need to develop as well, right? We've got to do both. We've got to start doing both, and that's why this was an off year for that with no new out of conference, but we will be able to add out of conference stuff again as we go forward. But we've got to start concentrating on farming some victories, and I think realistically, to see our coaches develop and to see our prestige rise and to be able to hang on to some players that want to win while we are a low prestige program, it looks like we need to be securing about 3 victories a season. And within our conference, we can really only count on maybe 1 to 2 wins a season, depends on how good we are. And then out of conference needs to be a place where we can secure 1 or 2 other wins. We are seeing some opposition in the conference take on 2 FCS opponents every year to get 2 free wins. That comes with a cost, right? It goes the opposite direction. But if we can then couple that with a hefty incoming, at least we'll have a positive balance every year. We'll play around with what we can do there, but let's see what we have for booster updates. No changes for the boosters this year, and we're definitely getting closer to realignment. 2035 is right around the corner. It will soon be 2033. Here's to hoping that our roster is still as good as I'm hoping it's going to be. It might not be the 81-81 that we had a year ago, but if it is a very competitive, like 79 pluses, then we've got a big chance to win mini games in the coming season. We're going to finish our contract with Oklahoma, leaving only an open contract with Clemson, and then 2 new contracts opening up between Kansas and Tulsa. Only $1 million to play those 2 schools, meaning we are going to hurt our finances, well, for the next couple of years. I can hold off on finishing the Clemson one next year and take on a new contract and get the $12 million if I need to. However, the Kansas and Tulsa games really create a chance. For one, 7 home games where we only had 4 last year. Oklahoma and California will be tough on the road, but we beat Arizona State last year. It was one of our 2 wins, amazingly. But so much of that came down to just road game, road game, road game, road game. We get them at home this year. We're probably not going to catch them by surprise, but 2 years in a row, right? We had 5 overtime loss, and then we beat them. Surprise games, right? UCLA, that's going to be way too tough. But Kansas, at home, they were 1-11 last year. Washington State, at home, they were 0-12 last year. That was the other win that we had on the calendar. Hawaii, they were pretty tough last year, 6-7. They won a bowl game, but we are at home, and they should have been beatable last year. Arizona is often beatable. They were just 4-8 a year ago, 5 stars, right? Them or Arizona State, you can snag a win against them every once in a while. Utah's going to be tough on the road, but Tulsa at home, who were dead last and 1-11 last year, looks very winnable. By the way, I tried all 3 of our out-of-conference dates. I looked to see if I can score an FCS contract, even though it would cost me a little bit to make sure we are getting a win. None of those weeks were open to it. I've seen it on the calendar once a year or 2 ago as a possibility. Just didn't go for it. It was a negative. You pay them. You're higher prestige than they are. Anyway, Washington and USC on the road will obviously be tough games to finish the season, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4 big opportunities to win. 2 additional maybe kind of days. So we could and should be taking 3 or 4 wins in the coming season. And we open with off-season gains, and Josue Pryor, 95 was exactly what I was hoping for. I figured he wasn't going to get really any more than that. So a +3 for him is good, solid gains. He's got 101 strength, 83 run blocking, 98 pass blocking. He plays as a tackle, and he's gotten a +8 in the pass blocking. So very much got it in, even though he's labeled as a run blocker. He has grown into an excellent pass blocker. Anyway, Cooper Knowles, linebacker, up to an 87. Andre Chappell with a +4 is now an 87. Quarterback IQ at a 99. Holy cow. Ball carrier vision's good. Arm strength is an 86 and accuracy is a 91. This could and should be a very, very big year for him. His problem is he doesn't have much evasion or strength, but wow. Noah Hurley from a 79 up to an 84, the D lineman. Finally, a good gain for Gyro Harden. Harden was the, hey, let's take a chance on somebody who's a little bit higher overall, but a little bit lower potential, who can come in and contribute immediately. And he was gaining +1 each year. He was a junior college transfer, was he, that I picked up? Anyway, we redshirted him in the first year, and then he gained 1, and then he gained 1 each year until now. So he was something like a 77, and he picked up 1 point each year. 84, good jump. But we've seen that a lot. Senior year, you make a bigger jump. Senior year, Schneider, not making a bigger jump senior year. He's only an 84 overall, but still gains a couple points. Samuel Parks gains +4 to a respectable 83. Mason Byrne gets +5 to a respectable 83. We're still talking 83, and we're already 10 guys down the list with a couple of D linemen, younger D linemen as well. Ramachandran, 82. Mitchell, offensive lineman, so Pryor has some support. Cale Elliott, the new massive signing, the redshirt freshman now, transfer who came in. He's an 81 already. Potential drops off a bit though, but hey, it's okay. He's an 81 as a redshirt freshman. That's massive. Lane Jensen, redshirt senior, 80. Here's an 84 Peyton Bailey, who we made promises to, so we're going to make sure he plays. Albert Chun jumps to an 80 as a redshirt senior. 17 guys, 80 plus. That's pretty solid. Quick drop off though after just a single 79 and a few 78s. Kai Dunbar, the redshirt sophomore kicker, jumps to a 78. The other one a 77. We dug deeper this year, and 4 true freshmen have not broken the 60 mark. 2 of them have tremendous potential, and one of them has already dropped to an A- while only gaining 3. That's not what I wanted to see. In fact, only one significant gain in this lower group, and that's an offensive lineman taking a +8 coming out of high school. Those with the biggest gains: Mason Pennon, redshirt sophomore D lineman, gets a +9, well into the 80s. Terrell Sanders, another D lineman, takes a big jump. He is a senior this year, though, but he'll be able to contribute as a 78 with a +8. And true freshman Joseph Ferguson from a 53 to a 61 with his +8. Couple +7s, a couple +6s, and a wide number of +5s, all the way down to 17th on our list before we get to a bunch of +4s, and that group is quite high. Disappointed to see our promise guys only get +3s, but part of that was Pryor being so good. 2 more promise guys only getting +2s. That could hurt us a little bit. And it sucks to see so many +1s, but at least there's no +0s. There's somebody who's going to get cut for sure. He was only a B to begin with, and now he's a B- after only gaining 1 point. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this episode. This was probably an incredibly long episode, and not very long compared to how long it took to get through all of the content for this episode, though. It was a lot of time recording an entire day to do one episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.